Let's try this again. Lots of excitement, lots of love in the Cancer Center tonight. Tonight, we are joined by two great guests. They've been married for 40 years. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But it wasn't all flowers and roses for those 40 years. There were some difficult times, including a diagnosis of cancer and a 2-year cancer journey. So they're here today to share that. So thank you. And welcome to all of you. This is Cancer's Center Live. I'm Allison Johnson. We are live in the Cancer Center tonight. Manager of Communications here at Windsor Regional Hospital, and I'm happy to introduce you to Shiva and Aruna tonight.
Hi, my name is Shiva Kushik. I'm a retired engineer, and everything was going great. I used to have these pains in my legs, ignored them, kept putting muscle ointment, till one day our family doctor said, I've got an x-ray I need to discuss with you. So we went in, and she gave me the information, gave us the information. She made Aruna, my wife, and I sit down and said, I need to tell you something. She said, you have multiple myeloma, which is a type of cancer. And from there, we have spent the last 2.5 years taking care of it, treating it, and I feel terrific today.
And happy to have you here today.
Happy to. Thank you very much.
With your beautiful wife, Aruna.
And I'm Aruna Kushik, his better half, I think.
Can vote.
I say so. We can vote for that. And it was shell shock because we had heard of cancer, and every time you hear the term, right, it is a fear, and you worry about what is the future, what does that mean for your life? And our journey started, and we took it step by step by step in dealing with our friends and our family and our community members.
And so tonight we're talking about the effect that cancer has on a relationship, right? Because it doesn't just affect one person, it affects many people, and the person that it affects most is your primary person in your life, your partner, your caregiver, your spouse. So for those of you who have never joined us before, this is Cancer Center Live, and what it is we bring you a different topic and different guests every month in the Cancer Center on the third Wednesday of every month, but it's up to you to drive this conversation. So please, everyone out there tonight, a couple things. Tell us the tips that you have. If you've gone through a cancer journey with a spouse, what did you learn along the way that we can share with others and help them on the journey, just like Aruna and Shiva are going to do with us tonight? Number 2, what questions do you have for these guys? Because I mean, being married alone for 40 years, that's hard enough. But add to it the diagnosis of cancer. I think that they have a lot to teach us and may be able to provide some answers. We also have another guest in the Cancer Center with us tonight, and our studio is not that big, so she's going to jump in after. It's Joyce McManus, and you might remember her. She's been on this show before. She's a social worker here at the Cancer Center and has lots of great advice and can make valuable connections. So if you have any questions that maybe Shiva and Aruna can't answer, Joyce will join us later with answer to those questions. So please post your questions. I encourage you, if you think this is a valuable conversation, to share this post with others. We want to get this out there to anybody who could possibly benefit from that. And as a special bonus tonight, anyone who posts has the opportunity to win this fabulous Cancer Center Live mug. It's full of some Valentine's Day chocolates. They were on sale today. But you also get gift certificates to the keg, so you can treat your spouse, your caregiver, your loved one, your partners, or you could go yourself, because $50 at the keg will just about take one person there. So start posting. Welcome to the conversation, and let's get going.
Well, you did make a very good point in terms of the effect a diagnosis of cancer can have on relationships. Mm-hmm. And it has an effect not only on the relationship between the patient and the caregiver, but also on those around them, their friends, their family members.
It's everybody.
And, all of us. And and one of the thoughts we had was, we have been in situations where we have heard friends having these diagnoses, and you always wonder about how you want to react. What sort of reaction should you have? And we decided we wanted it to be friendly, we wanted it to be jovial, we wanted it to be almost ask, make it light, make it simple, so the person going through that diagnosis is easier for them to
Yeah.
live with it. It's a tough diagnosis.
And you can tell here that Aruna's got the type of personality, she's a manager. So when you talk about this, it seems very much like this is another situation that you managed. I'm sure emotionally it would be draining, but also you had to separate that. So Shiva, talk about that situation. How did this affect your home, your marriage?
When we had to, when we finally understood what the implications of this type of cancer was, there's things that happened so fast actually. Right after we were given the diagnosis, within a month, I had to have a hip replacement surgery, which means I was in the hospital for 6 days. And then, not being able to walk, I used to use a walker, I used to use a walking stick, whatever it was that was required for that condition. And because I was immobilized temporarily, there was a lot of changes that we had to make in the house. I couldn't climb up the stairs to our bedroom. So Aruna decided to bring the bed to the living room, and that became my bedroom. So she would sleep upstairs, I would sleep downstairs. So we had to go through that journey for apart
Which
from
he
each
was
other
really
at night.
bad at.
Yes.
He did not, he was difficult, to say the least, right? Because
I'm a very good patient, honestly,
that's
I've
what
got to
you
say
like
this.
to
No,
think.
seriously.
That's
I
what he
listened
likes
to
to think.
everything. I listened to everything that the doctors told us.
Yeah.
I listened to everything that she told me too, believe it or not. And it worked wonders because I was trying to fight with myself.
That's true.
I didn't want to do something, so I was trying to resist not doing it. But then I realized that doing what I was told was the best under the circumstances. And there's something that come very difficult that way. You have to convince yourself that you're in good hands, which I was right through. I cannot believe the kind of attention and service we have received through the hospital system. It has just been incredible. I cannot say enough about it.
How difficult was it to convince yourself that you're in good hands? And I think you're talking about with everybody, but also with Aruna, right? You had to go
Yes.
from seeing her as your partner to
Right.
somebody who's now in a different role.
There were so many things which, being the guy in the house, there were so many things which I'd been doing for many, many years. And for me, it was just a question of habit. And then the first day the doctor gave us the diagnosis of the multiple myeloma, one of the things she told me was, she said, your femurs can break at any time, so cannot lift more than 5 pounds weight. And you know that statement, it caused so much of a ripple effect right through our life, because every time I used to pick up a bag, I would say, no, that's too heavy for you, you can't lift it, just put it down, that kind of stuff. The one rule in my house was the women in the house would not do anything to do with the garbage. Garbage bags would all be either myself or my son. But here I was lying in bed, having to watch my wife carry out the garbage every week, carry out the recycling every 2 weeks.
And those are difficult decisions
just
for
made
him.
it difficult
They
for me.
were always difficult. And the other piece was, but the best part was we talked about it.
So
The conversations, right? That you had.
what did it feel like watching her take out the garbage?
I used to turn away the other side because I didn't want to watch it, honestly. That was the only way I could cope with it, because there was nothing I could do about it. There was no way I could help. So I would just, or if some friends came and they were willing and they were able to help, I'd say, hey, can you help with the garbage, please? And
Your
they
support
would
systems.
willingly jump in. We had a phenomenal support system, yes.
Yeah.
Aruna is going to talk to you about that too. Go ahead.
She has a question.
I have a question
Don't
from
overcome.
Andrea. Andrea, thanks for posting your question tonight. And she says, I want to preface this by saying they've been here for a half hour and they haven't stopped talking the whole time and talking to each other. So they're very good at communication. But I think that you're right here. She says sometimes the spouse has a hard time sharing how they feel because they don't want to upset the other person.
Right.
And even for you guys who are really good communicators, did that happen where you can't share?
Let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to address this because
He will
honestly,
take over.
those were very difficult times for me. Those are the times when I had to really find new coping mechanisms. I'd be alone in the house. Maybe she had gone for work or she was in another part of the house. And I'd go to the family room, and all my grandkids' pictures were hanging on the wall. And I'd be either with my walking stick or my walker, and I'd look at those pictures and think to myself, I want to see these kids grow, and is it going to happen? How long is it going to happen? And you know what? Those are the times when I would feel like totally helpless, completely helpless. But this is what happened. She would come into the room at that time. She would sense what is going through my head. And then we'd hug each other, and maybe we teared up too. It's possible we teared up, possibly. I cried. I know I cried a few times, but the hug was so important at that time because we were together, anything was possible, everything would be fine. That was the sentiment I got.
And it sounds like you didn't even maybe need to share, you just needed to be there. The communication.
Don't even have to talk.
Now, what about you? Did you ever think, because, and I want to say, Aruna was, you've told me the story, you know, working full-time, but also being a full-time caregiver. When you felt that you needed to talk to somebody, is this where you turned?
In most cases, yes, but I had I had a couple of friends who I was very close to, so I would talk to them a lot. But for me, as you had said earlier, I'm a planner. This whole journey was all about planning minute to minute, day to day.
I want to take a road trip with Aruna.
Okay? It is planned, everything, you name it. Because for me, if I had actions helped me deal with whatever I was dealing with. I wasn't really getting in touch with my own emotions. I was just one thing after the other. Everything was planned. So I was able to use my actions to help me. With him, it was more, I would never talk to him about how I felt. That was not the time to do it in my view. With him, it was always cooking for him and joking with him and fighting with him. I didn't change my modus up. I wasn't sympathetic towards him. Because, you know, I didn't show sympathy, and I told most of the family members, no sympathy here. Because that makes, in my opinion, makes you weak. He'll start feeling, oh, what is going to happen to me? We knew what the diagnosis was. So my thing was, no, we're going to go. We're going to fight this. We are going to take every action to get to the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So that journey, that thought process, I think helped us a lot in our couple. I don't know if it'll help others, but certainly I think the more you talk to somebody,
whether
it doesn't matter
it's
who
your
it is.
spouse or somebody
Somebody you
different.
trust, you feel they're confident, you're comfortable with. And there are times where you're going to feel like crying. I basically thought the shower was having the water and not me, but you need to open up and help people who find it difficult to open up. Because then once they let it out, they're sharing the burden with others, right? And when they share the burden with others, it becomes a lot less. And if you look, and the other piece I found was that I would not think beyond tomorrow. I was not going to do what happens in 1 month's time, what happens in 6 months' time. I don't want to know the long, I'm going to do, because it became too overwhelming for me.
Did you sleep in those 2 years?
No.
And you mentioned, so the
Not
bedroom
very
was
much.
moved, half of the bedroom was moved downstairs, but half
The
stayed
whole
up.
bedroom, no, the whole
And-
bedroom
but you
was down.
stayed
I
upstairs.
stayed up.
How was that?
Tough. Because every little move that he had, our bedrooms are diagonally, when he came to the living room, I was on the bedroom, and it was diagonally down. So I kept the door open and I listened all night to his movements, right? Because at the moment I knew he turned, because it was difficult for him to turn, or he wanted to get up. I would come down the stairs and then take him. And I didn't want him to see I was worrying, so I knew if I got out of the room, he wouldn't know about it.
And that leads me to some of the questions that we have here. But if you're just joining us, welcome. This is Cancer Center Live. And again, the way that it works is we have a great set of guests here tonight, but we want you to drive the conversation. And tonight we're talking about relationships and cancer. So how did a cancer diagnosis affect your relationship? What tips and advice do you have for others? questions for Shiva and Aruna, who so generously joined us tonight to share. And we also have Joyce McManus, a social worker, who will join us later with also some coping tips and strategies and some connections to other agencies and places where you can get that kind of help. But I want to just go to some of the comments that we've had tonight, and thank you everyone who has commented. We've got Barb, who says, "You're such a beautiful and strong couple." I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Thumbs up, heart, if you agree with that. Mander says, "Thanks for sharing so that others can learn from your journey." And I think that's important, and that's what Cancer Center Live is all about, sharing with the patients, with the people that we have on staff here, but also you. So please don't forget to share your stories with us. Mike Coffin thinks it's funny that you're married. I don't know if you know Mike, but he said, "You're married, LOL." We've done a lot of LOLing in here tonight, so I thumbs up to that. And now we have a question from Mander, who says that you hear a lot about caregiver burnout. So Aruna, how did you take care of you?
Well, in my private time, throughout the years, I've always taught classical dancing, and that was my strength. That's where I go to for my mental state. And my parents and my students were around me all the time. So did I have burnout? I don't know what burnout actually is. Because I don't know what that means.
You strike me as someone who's
but I...
Somebody pushed that face there that goes,
but
like,
it's not
that's what
burnout, but
burnout
it's
is.
mainly it is tiredness. I'd
Yes.
be very tired. End of the night, I would blank out. I would be exhausted, and my head would hit the pillow. Nowadays, in the 2 years, I was going on adrenaline because I was doing work, I was doing dancing, I was doing hymn, and I was also doing some volunteer work. So it was not bad. And then I cooked up a storm. So people used to come home, so I'd cook up a storm.
I can vouch for all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a party time, though. 2 years in our house was party time.
Oh.
Because we had food, and of course, with my husband, you couldn't stop him from his scotch. So
I got to talk about that. Excuse me one more.
That's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole topic. Thank you. Yes. So relationships. I mean, apart from the caregiver and the patient, we had a phenomenal relationship. We understood a lot of what I wanted, and she was able to foresee a lot of it and get it done. So there's very little that I really wanted because it was already there. But the relationship with your medical community, medical staff is also very important.
Amazing.
It's very important to be able to ask all the questions that you ever wanted to ask. Never think to yourself that, oh, maybe I shouldn't ask this question because I don't think it's right. For instance, one of the questions that I was able to ask my doctor, my oncologist, was, you know, I love drinking scotch. During this chemo journey of mine, is there any time I can squeeze in to have a shot of scotch once in a while? And to my very pleasant surprise, she said, yeah, you can do it once a week, not a problem. So guess what? I mean, my friend of mine walked in with a bottle of scotch the first weekend, and we sat, we had a couple of shots, it was really good. So it was going along well. And then one day, 4 weeks later, I get a call from the hospital, from the oncologist nurse, and she said, Shiva, just a quick question. I wanted to find out how much scotch have you been drinking? And I said, why? Is there a problem? She said, no, we're just looking at some of the numbers, and we don't know if it's high because of this or because of that. We want to make sure it's not the medication. So I told her, I said, it's been just like once a week or 2 shots a week or something. But I said, if you need to, I can stop right away, and then we can check the numbers for the next month. So that's exactly what happened. It so happened that the scotch was being imbibed a bit too much. So I cut back on it. I'm still good. We had an awesome time.
We had an awesome time. I've never heard anyone describe their journey that way. But I think what's important and what I'm hearing is that you were able to communicate what you want. Because I don't think everybody would want people coming over to their house expecting to be served scotch and expecting Aruna to cook. Some people might want privacy. Did you ever say, I don't want anybody?
Oh, no. Not at all. We actually
Well-
said the opposite.
We are a very outgoing couple, right?
Yeah.
We have always been in the community. We have always had friends, and we've always had a good, but I know there are lots of people who are introverted.
Yeah.
Who get a diagnosis like this, and they don't want to share. They feel embarrassed. They don't want to. They have go through a whole lot of emotions. They deserve support. They deserve the community to be with them and respect whatever they want. Right?
Exactly, I think
that
that's-
respect of if the person says, the patient says, I don't want to see anyone. And it happened with Shiva with stem cell transplant. There was a 3 day or 4 days, he didn't want to see anybody. He didn't want to see
Including
me.
you? Yeah.
Including me.
How
he
was
was
that?
all alone. It was tough because he said, "No, I don't want you to see me in the state I
That
am
is true, in London. Yeah.
in London." I had to respect that. And he would not FaceTime, no technology, nothing. But that was his moment. That was his time to decide whether or not he wanted anybody. We all have to respect that.
We have a comment from Andrea. Andrea, thanks for joining us tonight and for posting. She said, my husband said the hardest part wasn't being able to do anything to change things, and he felt helpless. Is that something that you experienced, the feeling of helplessness?
Not to any, I mean, honestly, in my case, I did not think I felt helpless at any point because I think the important thing I decided for myself was, as part of being very positive about the approach to this disease, we wanted to continue with life the way it was before I was diagnosed with cancer. I think to me that was very important because cancer was only part of me. It wasn't the whole of me at all. And if I continued doing everything that I enjoyed doing before and, treated cancer as just something else I had to deal with, that helped me tremendously because, for instance, every Sunday, a really good buddy of mine would drop in. We'd watch all the NFL games that were being played on that day. And we had a great time. We'd argue, we'd quarrel about it. We'd say, hey, that game was good. So those kind of things kept things alive for me and kept it in perspective. Because if you can't allow cancer to consume you, that is a very wrong approach.
And the routine, maintaining a routine, maintaining people coming, having the life that you had before the diagnosis. And Shiva put it really well, right? The life that you have, life continues on, whether we are here or not. Life continues on
Cancer is
regardless.
part of-
And, the way I thought of it, I had been diagnosed 6 months before, and so it's a journey. It's
Here's
a
the
train.
question I know everyone wants to know this.
Yes.
Did you guys ever fight?
All the time. That's how we have lasted 40 years.
Oh my
We've
God,
lasted 40 years because we fight like crazy.
Okay, so you're downstairs in your bedroom, in your new bedroom, and you can't move. What do you fight about? And then you really are kind of stuck because you don't want to upset her too much, right? That's how you get fed.
We fight about...
Every time I
boy,
critique
tried
the
to-
food, for instance, what did you do here? Like, it was so awesome the last time we made it, it's not so good today.
Yeah, it wasn't
that
that
would set
spicy.
her off. She said, it's your taste buds, it's changing.
I
You
always
realize
said
that
he has lost his taste buds. That's my opinion, and I stick to it.
Last month we did learn that can happen with your treatment.
Yeah.
But
Yes, yes.
anything specific to the cancer journey that created more challenges or struggles?
Some of and I don't know how, I want to say it because it's a very, very important for others, I think. I think religion is wonderful. Religion is very personal, though. It's very personal to each individual. And sometimes people take it upon themselves to come and proselytize in your house, in your journey. Right?
Joyce is
And I
shaking
want
her
to
head,
say
yes,
that.
our social worker.
And we have to be mindful of the fact that the patients sometimes don't want to hear that. Patients don't want to hear mind above matter, or they don't want to hear about the ultimate journey, or sometimes they don't want to hear all that, right? Sometimes, maybe some do. I think there's no hard and fast rule, but you want to make sure that those types of conversations are positive conversations. The second piece was where family members feel that they call and they start, and they are not in tune with their own emotions, so they break down. And then you have a situation where the patient is supporting the family member, you know.
Consoling.
Consoling. And, you know, and that happened, both of those situations happen. And one of the pieces of advice, if you will, is when there's a diagnosis in a family of any illness, whether it's cancer, whatever, it should be, everybody else outside should focus on that patient. It's not about me. It's not about what happened and what I went through when I'm going to that patient. It's about what does that patient want? What does that patient need? I don't need to talk about my birthing or my journey. No. It's about what do you want? How would you like us to react with you?
If everybody could be as strong as Aruna, I mean, seriously.
Yeah, but it's about the patient.
Absolutely.
It's about the patient. We all have to do that. If my friend is going through a tough time, it's about my friend. It's not about me.
Absolutely.
You know?
Julie provided a comment for us. Julie, thanks for chiming in here. She says, I adore you, Aruna. Thank you for being brave enough to share your journey. And I do think it's brave, both of you, for being here tonight. And Patty says, kudos to you both. It has to be hard to see your loved ones suffer. Nobody wants to see that, right? Mike says, my wife cared for me after surgery, and I found it hard to accept help. Did you find that hard at first?
Yes, oh, definitely, yeah. I mentioned that earlier about the garbage. There's only one thing, though. Because I watched a whole bunch of people in the house who she had got together, rearranging things around the house, and I said, hopefully they know what they're doing, because I'm not there. I don't know what's going on. And so that was actually...
But it was wonderful. We cleared the complete garage.
Yeah.
We just cleared, done, gone,
including a vehicle, yeah.
Opportunity.
We even sold one vehicle in the bargain.
Oh, no. Well, Aruna, I want to thank you for being here with us tonight. We're going to have to swap Aruna out and bring in our next guest.
Bye-bye.
Because, again, we have a very
Take
small
care.
set, but thank you so much for
No
sharing.
problem.
And as she's leaving, I want to read a comment that we have from Beverly. Hello from Sarnia. Just wanted to say my mom is receiving treatment at the center, and the doctors and staff are all wonderful. So thanks, Beverly. Hope your mom is doing well and her journey's going well. And with that, I want to introduce Joyce. For those of you who have watched this before, she's a social worker here. And again, I want to remind you, if you're at home and you have some questions for Joyce, now's the time to post them. We're at least at the halfway point in this program. But thank you for joining us tonight. So Joyce, marriage is tough on the best day. So what do you hear from patients and family members who come in here about these situations, about what people are going through?
I think if, like this couple, you have pretty good communication skills, it's probably going to be somewhat easier. However, cancer comes into people's lives when your relationship is good, bad, indifferent, and somewhere along that whole continuum. And if the couple aren't used to talking about feelings, sharing the changes that are coming up or that have been brought up because of the cancer, it can be very difficult. If you don't have some conflict resolution ways of dealing with things in a positive way, it can create a lot more conflict, and not just the kind of fun bantering back and forth we see here, but some real conflict. And a lot of people, both the caregiver and the patient, may just pull back and like a big wall goes up because neither one knows how to get through that, negotiate around it, or even to acknowledge it's there. And often it's because the patient doesn't want to burden the caregiver, so I'm going to protect my wife or husband and not really tell it the way it is, or the caregiver with the patient wanting to just be the strong one, I got to do it. And there's a lot of truth in that, as Aruna said. You've got to take over all those things in the household that the partner was able to do. So it's a big chunk. At the same time, I like what Aruna said. She had to take care of herself, and it was dance for her. Other people, it's other things, but that's something I would really encourage, that no matter who the patient is, the caregiver can't be there 24/7. That person is going to burn right out. And believe me, you'll know what the burnout feels like when you hit it. So you have to ask for help.
Hopefully it doesn't. Yeah.
it can be very difficult for people, and certainly many times I've heard people say, this is a crisis point in our marriage. Either we get through this with some help, or this isn't going to last. It's not been good for a long time. Now I've got cancer, I'm not going to waste my time. So it can be a real crisis.
And we
as
were
well.
talking about this earlier, and we all knew somebody whose spouse left them after that diagnosis. I don't think because of the diagnosis,
No.
but things that were a small or a good-sized problem before kind of get blown up.
overwhelming, absolutely overwhelming.
Yeah.
And what do you tell people about how to go through that situation? I mean, all of a sudden now you find yourself alone in that journey.
And that's the time, even if you haven't asked for professional help before in the journey, I would certainly encourage the partner and or the patient both to seek out help. And at the Cancer Center, there's 4.5 of us in terms of social workers here. That's what we're here for as well, to walk the journey with the more regular everyday stuff like transportation and finances and so on, but the emotional support, to certainly ask for help.
I think that's the big theme that we're hearing is ask, right? And say what you're feeling and then ask for the help, because some people just don't know what you want or what you
Or
need
where to get
or
it.
where the boundaries are, right? So a colleague of mine sent me an article, and I think, Shiva, you'll appreciate this one. It was from the Journal of Oncology Practice, and it said basically, if a caregiver is properly supported in his or her role, not only will that person do better, but so will the patient, and patient outcomes actually improve if you have a strong, confident caregiver who's comfortable in that role and comfortable and confident in that role. And I think that when I read that, I was definitely thinking
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I mean, in our case at least, because Irina was A, knowledgeable, and B, very easy for her to ask for help. She never held back. She was able to pick up the phone, call anyone she wanted to, or ask the next door neighbor to come and do something for us that we couldn't take care of ourselves. So that was a very, very strong part of the ability to be able to negotiate a lot of things that may not have happened otherwise. And I think that is absolutely true, that the caregiver has got to be confident. The caregiver has got to be with absolutely no qualms about asking for help or seeking other types of assistance from people.
And being not afraid to ask.
Being not afraid to
I
ask
think in
at
our
all. Absolutely.
extended
That is a huge
group
thing.
of friends and family,
That is true.
people probably want to do something. They don't have any idea how to do it, how to ask for it. Should I do? Shouldn't I do? Or if there's somebody that can kind of take the reins of that and say, gee, I really need somebody to take my husband, wife this time, or the kids here, or would someone just prepare dinner 3 times a week so I don't have to worry about grocery shopping, or whatever it is.
We were very, very blessed. I've got to say this. We were very, very blessed. Not only did I have a very strong caregiver in Aruna, but we had such a phenomenal support system of friends and family. And we had every appointment that we went to, we had a friend of ours come with us, willing to drive us at any time of the day to any of the appointments, came with us to London for the initial hearing. That's the other important thing. It's always good to have more than 2 sets of ears when you're going for a medical appointment,
Yes.
because sometimes the doctors, whatever they say, you may not catch everything, but if there are 3 sets of ears, you pretty much got it. One of our friends was taking notes, so at the end you could say, hey, this is what he said. That was such a big help. Then we had a whole bunch of friends who were cooking food and bringing to the house, so Aruna didn't have to worry about that part of it, and that was such a big help. So I cannot overemphasize the fact you need to be able to get something like that going for you to reduce the burden on your caregiver and yourself too. And I just want to narrate a very small thing. We had a friend over for one of these Scotch parties I was talking about. And no, I can't get away from the Scotch. So I said, you know what, why are you feeling that you need to help? Because this person had jumped in without being asked, and he was doing all kinds of things for us. I said, it's so awesome that you're doing it, and I just cannot thank you enough. He said, no, you're looking at it the wrong way. He said, you and your wife, you've traveled all over the world. You're trying to do the polio thing. You've traveled to Afghanistan and Pakistan and all that. So people know that you want to give. So when you're in trouble, they want to give in turn. And that made so much sense to me. But I was still, I was still so, obligated to everyone who stepped up and did whatever they could. It was just fantastic.
But recognizing that it's okay to take that, and even
Yes.
more than okay.
Yes,
It's a
right,
sharing.
One other thing, Allison, I want to bring up, in terms of the more intimate relationship between partners. When somebody's sick, some people don't want to be touched, like leave me alone. Other people want to be held, be there physically, sexually for them. Other people just can't. Now that is something that needs to be negotiated, a kind of physical and or sexual intimacy. And often that's not easy to talk about, negotiate, and see those changes. One of the things we know for sure, and I do the sexuality and health program here, is that intimacy will change with the diagnosis of cancer. It doesn't mean it's going to be worse or better, but it will change. And that takes some openness. And again, the social workers are here. Our doctors, frontline workers can be very helpful there too. Because at the time when you're sick, you want that emotional closeness, however that's expressed. But it may have to be expressed a bit differently when you're ill.
And again, I think the two things that we keep talking about, communication and asking, again, back to that theme. And I want to mention that we will be having one of our future shows, I think it's in May, will be sexuality and cancer, because I know that's another whole topic and another great, big, huge topic for the staff here and how they communicate, and also for patients and what they need to know. We have a comment from Andrea. Andrea, thank you for your comment. It says, I'm a 2-time 7-year survivor. Congratulations. And my family and friends have gotten me here, and support is everything.
So true. So true. Very lucky.
Cheers to
Yeah,
that. Thumbs up
absolutely.
to that.
Absolutely.
I don't think that there's anybody who would disagree with that. So we've got to make sure that the caregivers and the support teams have the support that they need. And Joyce, what is out there for people?
First of all, certainly within the Cancer Center, please talk to your nurses, your radiation therapists, your doctors, and the dietitian is part of that, but also social workers, and that's why we're here as social workers. However, in the community, there are some wonderful resources for patient, but also for caregiver, and I want to highlight that. Take a look on the site for the Hospice of Windsor and Essex. They've got tremendous programs, like there's a group for caregiver stress, there's yoga, there's relaxation, there's how to get a good night's sleep, all kinds of things for kids, crafts, card playing, Tai Chi, those kinds of things, as well as their social work network. Someone had asked about bereavement resources, and I did check with hospice today. If you as patient or family member have been involved in their program, and there is a death of your loved one, if you're involved in any of those programs, then you do qualify for their bereavement follow-up, their group. If you're not part of their network, which many people aren't, the social workers here will see you on a limited basis, and then we would send you to, or suggest that you go to Canadian Mental Health, who has a wonderful bereavement program for individual and group.
But the important thing to note is there is different
There's
places
lots
out
of
there to get
things,
that help. And
yeah.
that question came from Katie Benson, who wanted to know about the counseling that was out there. So Katie, great question, and thank you for that. Is there anything else that either of you want to add to this discussion? I think we've had a really
I would like to just add one thing. I mean, with all the support system that a patient may get during this journey, there's still something that he or she should take care of for themselves, just to find a coping mechanism, let's say, during the times when they are by themselves and someone who's not there 24 hours. So 2 of the things that I found which was very useful for me was I maintained a daily diary. I used to write daily my thoughts, the actions that took place that day, the visits, the medical, what the doctor said, what my friend said. And that helped me a lot because it not only provided me an activity to take part in, but it also helped today when I go through that book, I can see all the things that we had to go through during these last 2 years, and that's a huge help. The other thing is I found that many of my friends would come in and they would drop off a book. Hey, Shiva, I got a good book for you to read. So I went through a lot of books during those 6 months that I was in bed. I read maybe 8 or 10 books, and it was awesome. It was good. I used to exchange with them. Sometimes they hadn't read the books, but the ones they had read, we could, talk about the books then, that gives us a topic too. So that is pretty good. You got to keep busy. You got to do something for yourself just to keep your sanity and to make sure that you're not going, bonkers.
That's another good show topic or something that we can ask out there. What are good books to read while you're in bed not feeling so well? And what are the best books to help you through that journey? Joyce, anything else that we've missed here that you think is valuable?
I think to know what you need and to be able to ask for what you need and to negotiate that. And there is help. There really is. And I would far rather people ask for help and say, gee, I don't know if this is a right question. Please ask it. There is no wrong question. We'll find the resources for you.
Everybody out there, that's the message of the day. Ask, 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 ask. We've got the answers. Or if not, we'll try our best here. So thank you, everybody who joined us tonight. Thank you, everyone who posted the questions. Again, we do have this lovely prize pack, including 2 gift certificates to the CAG for some of the people who posted tonight. So we'll be in touch with you and let you know if you're the lucky winner. I want to mention that next month, we're usually here the 3rd Wednesday of every month, but that falls on March break. We want to make sure that we can get to everybody. So we're going to move it. Next month, we'll be here on March 22nd. And we're talking about survivorship. So another great topic, people who have gone through their journey, they've made it to the end, and they're still a little bit nervous, anxious, tense. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because you don't know what's finally going to work, actually. You're going through different things that might work, and hope is always good to have,
Yes. So if you have any questions about that, please post them now or join us next month, March 22nd. We'll be back here. I want to thank you, Aruna. I want to thank you very much. We're getting lots of questions here. Actually, I think just a lot of people basically saying what I'm saying right now. Thumbs up to both of you. Well done. Well done on the 40 years. Well done on this past half hour. And thank you for sharing everything that you did with us today.
Thank you very much.
Joyce. Oh. This one's from Patty. She says, Shiva deserves a drink. I have no doubt that there's a scotch at the end of his night tonight.
I'm asking. They said you got to ask. I'm asking. I don't see scotch. But anyway, what I wanted to say is I wanted to thank the Cancer Awareness Cancer Center for the opportunity, because this has been great for Aruna and I to be able to share our story. And hopefully it's helped someone out there, and we are available anytime if you want to ask any more questions.
Or there's party at his house.
Yeah,
every
that's
Sunday.
right.
And food, Aruna says. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Good night. You got to tell me, yeah.